let's use imperative handle so we can make this scroll to top actually work. So the first thing that we need to do is use React forward ref. And there are a couple ways to do this, but I think my favorite way to do this is to come down here and reassign the messages display component to React forward ref messages display. So we're reassigning this. I'm going to get a linting warning for this, but honestly, I don't think it's all that confusing. And so I'm going to ignore that. Yeah, let's just ignore that. It's fine. It'll work just fine. But what this does is it makes it so that we can accept a second argument called ref. And so now that we have enabled our message display component to accept a ref using React forward ref, let's go ahead and do a console.log of that ref so we get an understanding of what this ref object even is. So it is a object that has a current property, and that current property is set to undefined. So let's take a look at where we're creating this ref that we're passing to our messages display component. So we have this message display ref right here, and that is created from React use ref, and we could initialize it to something, and now current is initialize. But we actually, I'm not gonna initialize that to anything. Instead, what I want to do is I want to set the ref.current property to an object that has the properties that we need to call. So here, if I come down to where this message display ref is being used, that current property should have a scroll to top and scroll to bottom function on it, because that's what we're going to call when we click these buttons. So I'm going to come up here and we're going to add a scroll to bottom, and I'm just going to uncomment this, thank you Marty the Money Bag, for our scroll to top. If I save that, then this actually totally works. This is not the way that we're going to finish, but I wanted to show you that this is pretty much the basic idea of what our use imperative handle hook is doing, is it's taking this ref and it's assigning to the current property the functions and properties that we want assigned to that value. So the problem is that this is manipulating a value during our render method, and that is not idempotent, meaning if we run this multiple times, it could have some unexpected results. And so we are not going to do it this way. And in fact, we can do react.use layout effect right here and put our ref.current right here. This is actually quite a bit closer to what use imperative handle is doing, is it's setting that current property after React has rendered all of our components and updated the DOM. So rather than setting that current property ourselves, we're going to use the use imperative handle hook to do this. So we'll say React, use imperative handle, we'll pass the ref we want applied, and then we'll pass a function which will return the value we want set to the current property. So here we want it set to an object that has scroll to top and scroll to bottom, and then we'll get rid of that. And this is how you use imperative handle. So now we can scroll to top and scroll to bottom. We can add a message and scroll to top and bottom, and everything is working splendidly. So use imperative handle is a way for you to expose an imperative API to your declarative component. So if you can't find a good way to make a declarative API for some action that you want your messages display component to take, for example, updating the scroll top property of our container div, then you can use this use imperative handle to expose that imperative API to your component. And the first thing you need to do is forward the ref using the messages display. Now, an alternative to this, if you don't want to disable this ESLint rule, is you can say const messages display equals react forward ref, and just wrap the whole thing like that. I don't like what that does to the way the component looks, so that's why I don't do it this way, and instead I just ignore that ESLint rule for these cases. So that's the first thing you do is forward ref, and then you are able to accept a ref as the second argument, and then you use imperative handle on that ref. You provide a function that returns all of the properties that you want assigned to that ref. You provide a function that returns the value you want assigned to the current property. And then anyone who's rendering your component is now able to pass a ref prop, which will get access to that current value that you assign everything to, and is now able to call functions or do whatever else it is that you're trying to expose for users of your component. Again, this is not something that you want to do a lot because declarative APIs are much better than imperative APIs for most cases. And so if you can come up with just a regular prop that you can pass to make this updated state or whatever you want it to do, then that is preferred. But there are definitely situations like the one we have here where the imperative API is simpler, and so that's what we're going to go with.